I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is All the Mods 9, and today we jump back into some more Gregtech, and boy oh boy do we get finished with the LV age by crafting this bad boy. That's right, the EBF. So last episode, as we jumped back into All the Mods 9, we went through Ender.io, kind of taking a little bit of a break, but it allowed me to be able to teleport to our industrial areas. How beautiful is that? But today is where the real work starts, as today I should be able to make the EBF. Now, what's the EBF, you may be asking? I don't actually know. The electronic blast furnace is what it is, but I'm still very clueless until I get this thing made, because I've never seen it or made it before. I'm just following what the quest says, so wish me luck. Now, speaking of quest, this is our low voltage quest line that I have been following along up to this point. And this is the chapter that we are now at after completing all of these other processes. And along that lines, I've also automated all of the stuff. For example, these heat-proof blocks. I've got all of the invar ready to go for those. And then there was also some other blocks that I needed to go ahead and get started with that required some special coils. So if I take a trip over here, I have gotten those set up. So I have my steel being turned into wire, being turned into these fine steel wires, and this is sending everything into an assembler, and once that all builds up, that starts to produce these coils right here, these low voltage coils. These are all needed for our process of getting the EBF up and running. Now, with all this sort of passively running, I need to get all of these individual machines auto-crafted, in which I have. I do have all of those individual machines needed auto-crafted and ready to go. But something else that I was told as a nice little tip is I probably want to create a pattern that brings these into some sort of container and brings all of the machines needed for these multi-blocks into a container. And I think that was one of the coolest tips that I have seen thus far, and something that I should definitely do for other things in the future. It takes a little bit of setup right now, but in the future will make things so much easier. So all of these components for the EBF right here, if I just set a pattern to make sure to pull all of these individual items in to an inventory, and then we can cancel that craft, that would make my life so much easier just to have these immediately requested on demand. Now, to get started with this, what I want to do is I want to bring in a name tag, and I'm going to use a name tag as a placeholder, and I'm going to call this the EBF, right? And EBF is going to be what we actually use when we create a processing pattern, which allows me to put all of those ingredients in. This is going to be what will actually show up inside of the system that I can search. Now, this makes it so easy. I have all of those things that are needed. Each of these items that we're going to need, I have them all set up and ready to go. So just like this should encode into a machine that we put this pattern into. So this will be our first external processing pattern that we set up, but it is going to be one that we can actually cancel after we're done, and once it's created all of the items for it. This is going to be pretty darn cool. So I think this is everything I need for the EBF. I have my electronic blast furnace, my LV energy hatches. I have my my cupro nickel, cupro nickel. I have my LV input. I have my LV output, input bus, output bus, our muffler hatch, and then we have our maintenance hatch. And we also have 9 of the heat-proof invar machine casings. This is all what the quest book tells me. So if there is another way of building this, this is all I know as of right now. So maybe in the future, I will be able to find out more about how these machines work, but this is currently what I'm working with. As if this quest book, I hope, is good enough. So if I go ahead and request this and I set it under the tag of EBF, and this is going to work for future machines as well, I should be able to create this process. That's pretty darn cool. So how am I going to get this to work? I'm going to use a pattern provider, just a regular one for right now. That should be more than enough. And then I'm going to do a barrel, or I'm going to have a barrel that is set up to receive these items. So for right now, I can just set this up down here. This has no channels. So if I grab some cabling, let's just go ahead and set this up. This is going to be so nice. So I'll place my barrel down right here, and then we can put our pattern provider actually shrunken down and put it right here. And then on the pattern provider, that's where we're going to put our EBF pattern. So if I request a EBF, we should be able to see it, I think, with the name tag inside of our wireless crafting terminal. So EBF, you can see there's the EBF. And whenever I go to craft this, it is then going to show me all of the parts needed to craft it. When I hit start, it is going to craft those things. And it's going to start putting all of those machines into the barrel, I believe. And there they are. That happened so fast. And there's all of the items. Now, you will have to go in to your terminal, and you can go ahead and once it is finished doing its craft, like it has, you can go ahead and cancel that particular craft. But that right there has now put all of the multi-block items in. And I think from this point forward, I will forever do multi-block crafting like this. That is so nice. So let's go ahead and grab all of these items out now. And I think all of our quests should complete for this. However, we do have to accept, I think the maintenance says grab your tools and open up the maintenance hatch. I would assume that is after we have completed something. Oh, do I have to have this in my inventory? That's funny. We automated it to the point where the copper nickel, we never actually put it in our inventory. So here we go. Now it's been in our inventory, and we should have everything except for observing the formed EBF, which, speaking of the formed EBF, is there a way for me to see the multi-block? I think I actually have to look at this block right here, and then I go to the multi-block info. And this shows how this is supposed to look. Okay, so we have these blocks on the front, which are the import buses. Then they have the import or output bus, I assume. And then we have our maintenance hatch in the top, the main frames, and then we have our another bus, I guess, over here. Or is this saying that a place that we could have different buses? This is our two power ports that are on the back. And I'm assuming that we can place these in different locations. We don't have to necessarily keep them right here. But this is the middle block and then our copper. Okay, so that doesn't seem all that bad to like set up. So I'm curious, once we go in here and we set this up, by the way, keeping in mind our panic button, I kind of want to place it, I think our first one right over here. So I'm going to grab some concrete and I want to get this sort of placed right in here, possibly. I think I want this to be raised up, and I want this one to be in the corner. It looks like it takes up a 3x3 space, just like this. And so I should be able to get this in place here. Okay, so we have our heat-proof invar casing. I'm going to have this facing the wall like this. And so I can place our first machine in, which is the electronic blast furnace. And then taking, which I shouldn't have, I shouldn't place this in first, right? Because this is actually how I'm getting the multi-block info. Okay. So these are buses. These are also buses. So how many buses do we have? We have output buses, LV. Okay, we have LV output, input. I guess these don't matter, right? Why do we have two different ones? Oh, fluid. Oh, okay. So as I'm discovering things, these are the fluid in the, these are input, but it doesn't say which one is which. So we'll just put fluid and we'll also put, we'll put them on both sides. Okay. So we just got to pick and choose kind of what we want to do. So we want our fluid input and item input to be on the same side. And I think this multi-block suggests us placing the red on the right. So we'll do item on the front right here, and then fluid output right here. And then it's showing the green on the right, and that's fluid and item. I'm going to do item on the front. If I can get this placed in right, item on the front and fluid. It's kind of, I wish they actually showed what they were. I can see them when I hover over it, whether it has a tank or not, but I wish it said item input bus and fluid input bus instead of what it is. I guess this is an input hatch, isn't it? Not a bus. Okay, so hatches are for fluids, buses are for items. Interesting. Then we'll have that in the middle. The energy hatches, it did show them kind of connected together like this in the back, which I thought was kind of interesting. I also don't know where the muffler hatch goes. So maybe I click this button. Does it show it here in the middle? Okay, there's that. I just see every block looks like it's taken up. We go up to the next level. It's just this material. Next level. Okay, so they're on the top. Okay, so we have the maintenance and stuff on the top. So the rest of it is just going to be these heat-proof blocks like that. And then the rest is the coil blocks that are going to go like so, with the middle being hollow from what it looked like. We're going to raise this all up. These are kind of cool looking, actually. Okay, and then on the very top, we are going to be using the heat-proof blocks again. Also, this block is actually going to be the main face of the machine. So just like this. And then last but not least, we have our muffler hatch. Like so. I don't know if this has to go in a special way. Like that. And then we have a maintenance hatch on the front. And last but not least, the electronic blast furnace block. And there we go. We now have a fully complete multi-block structure. That is pretty darn cool. I'll say I love the way these screens kind of look. It looks like I'm looking into like a computer monitor right here. Okay, so we have this. Fix the following issues in a maintenance hatch. Pipe is loose. Okay, we need a wrench. Screws are loose. Screwdriver. Something is stuck. A soft mallet. We also have plating is dented. We need a hammer. Wires are burnt out. We need wire cutters. That doesn't belong here. We need a crowbar. I just love the trolliness of that. That is just quite funny. So on this maintenance hatch, it says insert tape to prevent problems. Okay, so tape. We just hold everything together with some tape. Is it this tape right here from Gregtech? So it requires these machine. Okay, so we probably don't have that. Polybenzimidazole. I'm trying my best with carbon fiber mesh. Yeah, that's something that looks like a little later on. So click the slot with empty hands. The required tools are the required tools that are in your inventory to solve. Okay, so let's grab some tools then. So we have wire cutters. That's going to be some of the things we need. I think it was, we don't need a file, but we do need a crowbar, which I might have some of these things. I wish I have to change this from like sort by mod. Maybe, nope, that's not going to work. I want it to sort where it doesn't flicker around. Sort by number seems to do that a little bit better. Keeps the things that are flicking around at the bottom. Okay, we definitely need a screwdriver. Then we need a wrench. Okay. We need a mallet, I think. And a hammer. Definitely needed a hammer. And there's the crowbar. What were some of the other things we needed? So just a wrench, screwdriver, soft mallet, hammer, and then a crowbar. Okay, so I think we have everything. Do I just right click this? Or I have to click it here? So click slot with empty hand when requiring tools are in your inventory. Okay, so I'm clicking with an empty hand. Did that fix everything? Ah, it's fixed. Okay, so we no longer have that tab that's over here. I'm surprised there's not like smoke or something that comes out of the machine when there's like an issue. Or when we have an issue, just push the panic button and then we're good to go, right? So inside of this multi-block is where we're going to be processing some stuff. So we are going to need to send it power, but this is also another point where I am confused with power and I want to make sure that I get this right. Now, it does talk about the power in here, and it does talk about how each LV energy hatch accepts 2 amps of LV, and it says together that makes 4 amps of LV, which will allow this EBF to process MV recipes, right? As if they're powered with 1 amp of MV. But does that mean I can also craft anything that requires LV inside this machine? I don't know, but I might as well go ahead and set it up for the MV and have it ready to go for that, because it's not like it's going to be that much more expensive. Now, what I'm wondering is if I power this on the back with more amps, that shouldn't be a problem. So I need my cable. I'm assuming that if I go ahead and hook up the like 16 machine, for example, the 16 amp energy converter, and I hook it up with a cable that supports the 8 amps that this is going to need, or the 4 amps that this is going to need, then we should be fine. So let's hope. This I'm going to place down here, and we're going to get a little fancy with it. I'm going to convert that over. And then I just need to run the 10 cables into this machine right here. So I do need my wire cutters to make sure these are connected properly. There we go. That should be connected now. These should be connected, and that should be able to send power into this. And I hope it doesn't blow up or anything. That would be really upsetting if it did. Hopefully this will be I guess it would be a learning lesson for me if it did do that. But let's go ahead and get a gate. And we should be able to just craft a couple of gates here. And I think one gate works just fine. So that's sending power. Okay. And so we do have the power here into the machine. Okay. And it is saying that we do have medium voltage capabilities is what it looks like. Okay. So I think that it worked. So just hooking that, it's just as simple as connecting it up like we just did. So now the fun part, right? Now is where we actually have to start diving into the processing of recipes in this thing. And that's going to be the thing that's a bit challenging. So let's actually take a look at this. So I need to make the arsenic trioxide dust, and we've already processed everything ready to go for this. We just apparently need to send oxygen, liquid oxygen, and that cobaltite to this machine, which we have been producing the cobaltite. So liquid oxygen, cobaltite, and then this is going to produce sulfur dioxide, it looks like, cobaltite oxide dust, and the arsenic trioxide dust, which is what we actually need in order to progress. So that means we need to send fluids into the fluid hatch, and we need to send the items into the item hatch. And I really like that these are set up that way. That really makes this a lot easier for my brain to kind of make sure we are inputting and we're inputting in the right items in the right slot. So now what I should be able to do is input things with our exporter onto the input hatch. That sounds really confusing when you say it like that, but that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So we're going to be sending fluids right into here, and I need to send liquid oxygen. So that should start sending liquid oxygen into the machine. And then inside of the input hatch for the item, this is where we're going to be sending that that new product, right? So we need to go into this, and then I will set that cobaltite dust, which is a byproduct that we've been receiving, and that needs to go in here. So that should go into the machine. And then whenever we reach the amount needed in order to complete the craft, which is 3 buckets, it looks like. So if I grab out my network tool, we can go ahead and put the upgrades inside of here to make that go a bit faster. There we go. And it lights up and it is working. That is actually really cool. I was not expecting that to light up. That is actually pretty sick. And we can see the process right here. And it says running perfectly. Perfect. Just as we'd want. And there's the sulfur dioxide dust, or sulfur dioxide, and then our 2 byproducts here. Okay, so the main thing I need to get is a bucket, because I don't think we're already producing sulfur dioxide, are we? We are producing sulfur dioxide. Okay, so we should just be able to put an input on here, and that should be able to import now everything we need. And then if I just put a speed upgrade on the import, that should be able to pull the items, the fluid out of there quickly enough to handle everything. Perfect. And that should pull our items in. Just like that. Okay. So we are now producing all of those materials passively now. There is the arsenic stuff that we needed. And now apparently we need to make this oxygen gas via the actual method. Oh boy. I got to figure out what the quickest way to do this. I just need a single bucket to complete the quest book, but everything else we are now in line for. And then we got to get into this mixer. So apparently one of the quickest ways to get that quest complete is just to make a basic electrolyzer. So we're going to put electrolyzer in here and grab out a bucket of water. Cool part about Applied Energistics is we have the infinite water in here, right? And if I need to grab a bucket of it, the cool thing is I can just click on the water inside the grid and it actually pulls the bucket right here. So I'm just going to put this right here for right now. We're going to need this electrolyzer though here in a minute. So I'm going to send it that fluid just like that. And this is going to start a process. Now I don't know how much this gives, but it is pretty slow. As you can see right here, that is a very, very slow process. And if I take a look at water and I go over to the electrolyzer tab, we can see that 1 bucket of water will give us 1 bucket of oxygen gas. And it looks like 2 buckets of hydrogen gas, which is kind of nice actually that it does give you that, but it is pretty slow as you can see right here. So you'd need quite a few of these to be able to even think about keeping up with the rate that we're generating with Mechanism. So now that that's done, I should be able to grab out a bucket of oxygen. And perfect. So that quest is now complete, and I can then use this electrolyzer to be able to use it for the next step right here. So we are going to shock it. And yeah, I'm sure this is going to be very slow like the other one. It could, I guess it maybe depends on what it's doing. But it looks like, let's see, the electrolyzer will separate components into constituent compounds based on their electric charge. Okay. So it says in our case, we will separate the arsenic trioxide into arsenic and oxygen. Ooh, so does this mean that I am going to need a separate oxygen just related to this particular oxygen? I think that's probably going to be the case. Okay, so that means I am going to need to have two separate oxygens kind of stored away. So in that case, I might as well go ahead and get this placed in. So I'll unlock, place that in, and we just rinse and repeat. We're getting through this. We're getting through all this. We're about to be getting into higher voltages. We're about to be able to make the processor for that. All I need to do is get some power over here, and we put an export bus onto the electrolyzer, and then we also need an import bus to be able to pull the items in. And then we should be able to just simply send this arsenic trioxide dust into the machine to get that producing. Now this next part is kind of going to lead everything all together. So all of the things that we've been working over the last couple of episodes is now going to be combined together, and I'm pretty excited for this. And that is going to be done inside of a mixer. Now, this is a basic mixer. Says, will it blend? I absolutely love that. That used to be like a Blender infomercial thing where they were like, will it blend? And they would put all kinds of stuff in it. Anyways, this right here is what I was talking about. There's also a kinetic mixer that I noticed in here. And this one apparently uses create. It uses create components. And then it looks like it uses create for this whole thing. Which is kind of interesting. So I wonder if this receives like rotational power along with power. Right now I'm going to use the basic version right here, the regular basic mixer. And we just need to send an exporter and so on and so forth. It's nighttime. I tried to add some lights, by the way. I really like how these are emissive when it turns dark. But anyways, back to this. I just need to send this some power. So I did add some power cables over here. And I went ahead and connected these back up just to make sure we have enough EU running through the pipeline here. Does seem like everything does have enough EU and probably don't even need to worry about this really, but I was just making sure. But right here, we just need our export bus and then our import bus to pull in the products. And everything should be good once we get all of that done. I want to make sure that this cable line is able to support it. I hope it has enough channels. That's something I never know, right? Oh, I had this set way too big. There we go. Do I have enough? It looks like I should. This is branched off of here, only using 3 channels. So yeah, that's something I've got to keep in mind. This area was kind of my like testing zone for channels. And so there is a lot of like wonkiness, but so long as this says it's online, then I know that we should have a channel for it. But the 2 things I need to send to this, I want to set to round robin here. And I want to set this to pull here and to pull here. Now, that should work just fine, but if I do find this to not be able to keep up with each other, I will probably switch this to using a interface and then have those 2 things available, and then make sure we use an arm with a filter in here set to exact mode to make sure that it only sends these 2 things in. But I think that's all we need to send this, right? Into the mixer, and then we need to program the circuit. It looks like to 1 to make the gallium arsenic dust. Okay, so we can click this down here and we can set that to 1, and then that now is programmed and we can see it is functioning. And so the importer should be able to import this now into the system. Oh, everything is just coming together and just perfectly. I was not expecting it to be this smooth, but maybe that's because we're sort of this deep into this pack, and just having these resources available to us is making this a little bit easier. But I still think you do need the knowledge of how all these mods work together in order to even pull stuff like this off. Now in the system, this is the dust that we need, and this is now completed. Do we have the arsenic dust? I probably want to grab out that, make sure we have that quest completed. There we go. And we can see that we have definitely run out of arsenic dust. So, you know what? I'm actually going to show you the arm thing that I was talking about. I'm going to pull all of this back out, and I'm going to actually replace this setup here with that import bus, or not import bus. I keep getting them all mixed up, but applied energistics, and if we go to, what is it called? It's the interface. I keep getting it all confused. We just need an interface. And I will let the interface dictate all of this. So let's pull all of this out for right now. And then we're going to say, keep this in stock. One of them, keep this in stock. And then we'll use an arm. Actually, I need to not do what I just did. I put all of our resources into here. Oh no. There's our arsenic dust. And then I need the gallium. Okay. There's our gallium. Okay, perfect. So let's put this back into our system. And that is going to keep that in stock. And then we need an arm. So we'll make a filter and an arm. And that arm will actually keep these things in stock, which will make life a whole lot easier. So I'm going to go ahead and get that made. That's made up. Perfect. Okay. So inside of this, I don't know what side I just accidentally put that filter in. Did it just click it right in? It just went right in. Okay. So we don't want it to go back here. We don't want this doing this. Whatever it's doing right now. We want this to be on the main input side right here. We want the arm to go in. Now it's going to automatically start pulling these things, I think. Let's make sure we have this pulled and this pulled. Go back to the configuration. And then I'm going to configure the arm. And this is where we're going to put that filter in. So on that side, and I've been told to do the filter in here. So if I put the items in here on whitelist mode, that should whitelist that. Then we go back to that face, and we should be able to put the filter in and set this to supply exact. Now, I don't know if that only keeps one in stock, but it should be able to reach over here on that side, and that arm should pull those items out. Whenever we set this to import mode, by the way. It needs to be set to import. So is that going to keep exact? It looks like it's keeping the exact amount and should hopefully not let this overflow. So I hope. Now, if anything, I could go back in here and make sure this is set to keep exact. That would also be a little bit different. If I take these back out, we'll see that it only puts the 2 in. And that is just another way of doing it. Hopefully that actually works. Yeah, that process is just fine. Actually, I think the keep mode is the best for this, where it's only going to make sure that those 2 items are in those slots. Only one of them. That will prevent that overflowing weirdness. But there we go. So that is done. A whole lot of weird logistic stuff with these machines, but in the end, we're getting it done. Now, even though it looks like we are almost there by making this phenolic printed circuit boards and also making the diode, we still have to make these 2 things. And they do have their own machines in order to technically make. So I am going to need 2 wire cutters to be able to make that fine copper wire. We're also going to need to autocraft, and we also need to make liquid glass, which means I do need to turn this into to glass with an extractor. So I am going to do that. So what I'm going to do is in this room, I am going to split off another section of channels because I have a feeling I'm going to need that. I'm going to make that section of channels for this back wall. So I now have my extractor producing liquid glass, and this is going to be another thing I need to add to the fluid network. Yet again, more and more fluids. Everything is going to have to go into a proper storage at some point. There we go. And there's the start to that. Lock it back. Add it to the network. So I'll put an importer. I have an extractor now running with glass, and I also got all of my networks or my cabling all set up and nice and neat underneath. So we now have a set of 3 sets of 32 channels down here that are all running down the middle. So each wall basically gets its own set of 32 channels, and then this wall back here has a set of 32 channels. Quite a lot, honestly. But it's going to work out really, really well with all of the machines laid out like this. So right here is the glass that is then producing the liquid here. So let's go ahead and use an importer, and we'll get that fluid sent in nice and smooth. Perfect. So that should be now sending that glass into that container. It's for us to use later because we're going to need this in our next machine as we make this diode. The assembler right here, which is gonna be the next machine I set up, this is gonna require small piles of this material that we're producing right now. So we just craft that down. That's pretty straightforward. But you can see the liquid glass, and this just produces one diode right now. It's about as efficient as we are going to be. I don't think any of this other stuff is within our reach at the moment. I mean, technically we could probably produce this stuff, but I think for right now, just getting into the diode is probably going to be more than sufficient. Now, by the way, before I go any further, I do want to thank you guys for commenting and really helping me out with this mod. It really has helped me out a lot. I have really been diving deep into all of you guys' comments, and I just wanted to say thank you. You're definitely appreciated. Now, this assembler right here, we do need to make sure we are keeping everything exactly in stock. And so there's a couple of ways I can go about doing this. We want to make sure that the wire mill always sends enough resources in. So by default, we can just go ahead and make sure we get this crafted up. So let's get our crafter in here. And we need to make a crafting card real quick. We have to put the crafting card in here because this is going to be crafting the little dust that this needs. I think I have that listed here. There we go. So let's go ahead and add that. So if I go ahead and export this is going to export in. I'm going to set this to round robin mode for right now. And then we need to put the crafter card in here to make sure it crafts that. This also needs that liquid glass to be sent into this as well. Now, does this need a very specific program? It does not. So this one doesn't need to be programmed at all. And so that should start flowing in. But on this, I do want this machine to auto output to the bottom. And so that's going to send that wire there. And then this is where this may overfill this at some point. So what I'm probably going to do instead of, I'm going to take some of these out. But what I'm going to do instead of just having this auto send to this, I'm going to use the robot arm on the top just to make sure we limit that input here. So we'll make sure this is going to be on input mode, but we are going to set our filter to keep this in stock. And so hopefully that will keep this whole machine in stock up here with those specific items. So we'll set this filter and then we'll input mode and then we'll set this to keep exact. Now it's not going to keep exactly one. I believe this recipe actually requires several of these, so this might actually not work. It needs 4, and I don't know how you specify the exact amount up here. That's another thing I'm slowly figuring out. I see that there's an amount here. Keep exact, transfer any, supply exact. I'm just going to leave it on there for right now. That's going to still fill this in. I think we're going to be fine. I think we'll definitely be fine. But yes, I'm just letting that send what it can and hoping for the best. But there we go. We're already producing diodes now. So that's the diodes out of the way. And then we can just simply put an import bus on here and perfect. We're now importing our diodes into the system just like that. Now to do the other thing, which is very similar to what we just did. However, I'm going to be using a bender with some silver because we do need to produce these circuit boards. So for the most part, we already have these circuit boards, I believe, being processed. So we should already have some assemblance of circuit boards in our system. If we take a look here, we do. We have 8,000 of them just building up, just processing. So we're going to want to send some of those into this. And we're going to want to make sure we have enough of these. But it also is going to utilize some of that sodium persulfate that we've been generating. And so this machine should do it. We have a basic bender up here that's going to receive silver and bend that into sheets. And then we're going to pull that into the chemical reactor where those sheets and the fluid are then going to be working. So let's go ahead and set this here. And then I'm going to place my importer on the other side for right now. That should work. And then the bender, like I said, is just going to send the sheets directly down. So this does need an export bus with some silver on it. I don't know if I have silver in the system. I do. Look at that. I got some silver already ready to go. So we place the silver in. Oh, not into the chemical. Let's not put it in here. It goes up here. There we go. Into the bender. So perfect. So this is going to go into the bender underneath a very specific program, which is going to be tin. So if I set this to 10 over here, there we go. We now have that recipe started. That's now processing. Perfect. And then I want this bender to auto export out into here. Okay, now we need to hurry because we also need this sulfate. We set that to round robin. And then we also need those circuit boards. So let's see if we grab those boards. We'll have those pulled out into here too, just like that. And so now we should have the boards and this all operating perfectly. So I hope that should start to speed up and should start keeping these things in stock. And just like that, we now have the phenolic printed circuit board in our inventory. Oh, that is so good. Okay. And then we just have to wait for the importer to work. It says device online. Everything's online. Okay, we're good. Okay. And that is just about everything we need now. Everything we need now to craft the good electronic circuit, which gets us into the next tier, which is onwards to NV. Ignore this. Ignore that was an export bus. There we go. Now they're definitely going in where they belong. Oh, goodness. So now with all of that done, it's the moment of truth. We now should be able to craft the circuit. Under the low voltage, let's go into here, and then we'll add that to our list. And I should now have everything needed, I think, in order to craft this. So if I open up my grid, we should be able to request a craft. So I'll just craft up those items very quickly. And there we go. Perfect. I think the good circuit, we can just also just set up a regular craft for, but eventually we want these to probably be auto crafted within the circuit assembler, but that's going to be something we have to work on later on. Also, these basic circuits, I think want these to be automated as well. And that shouldn't be too difficult to have these set on a, for example, like a requester that always keeps these in stock. But yes, now I should be able to craft, for example, like 16 of these. And as soon as I click that button, it's for the most part going to craft it all up. Look at that. I definitely want to get some of those copper wires and stuff set on machines and always producing, but there we go. And now I can do the fun thing, collect all my rewards. There's a ton of them that just popped into my inventory. And there's also a ton, by the way, that, oh my gosh, there's a lot of stuff in here. There's also a ton of things that I also have to manually accept. Yeah, it looks like a ton of things, like all of these are like, I guess, chance rewards. And with that, we have now somewhat finished up the low voltage age. And now should, I guess, be moving into the medium voltage age. Now that we have those circuits, we should have the ability to get into the next chapter. And from the looks of it, this chapter, things get a bit more interesting. Oh boy, I can only imagine, but we'll have to wait until next time. Because today we are all out of time, but I did hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you did, be sure to click that subscribe button and of course, give this video a huge thumbs up. Also, comment down below. How far have you gotten into Gregtech? I would love to hear from you down in the comment section below. And with that being said, it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that huge thanks is going to go out to Toxic. Thank you so much, by the way, for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting me in one of the best ways possible. Be sure to check out the Discord, discord.gg/ChosenArchitect, and join the amazing crew today. You can find all of that linked down in the description below. I know nobody ever checks out the descriptions anymore, but anyways, without further ado, I do hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye.